atomic gigantification was a sweeping Japan nation when along came a dude with an ultra attitude, a Kamen Rider who's the greatest kicker of Japan. And of all, man, life's too short now, baby, to not talk big now, baby.
Broadcasting across the globe from Two Guys' Room, this is Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me, as always, my lovely co-host and editor.
Hello, I am Rex.
And Rex, what did you think of that?
It feels strange to hear you say anything that isn't "Hello, ladies and gentlemen."
I know. It felt funky. It felt really funky. It didn't sound right coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's like you've been kidnapped and been replaced by a robot.
An LMD?
Wait a minute. Hang on.
Wait.
What's your real name? What was your first dog?
Pig.
What's your least favorite Godzilla movie?
Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle.
Okay, you pass for now, but I'm gonna have to ask you some more questions later.
Yes, you will. You will. But with that being said, we are here. Speaking of Godzilla, Rex, Godzilla Day has came and gone.
Yeah.
And we always do a recap of the day and what has went on in festivities and what was announced and what's coming up. So that's why we're here. So unlike most of our episodes, this is a bonus episode, so we're not going to do the opening banter, but we are going to start off with establishing what we did on Godzilla Day 2024. Now, for me, I'm just going to jump right out the bat and say I had some personal issues come up, and I was unable to make it to the live stream that occurred. I was unable to join the live stream I was invited to. However, I did have a minor appearance in the Monsters with Attitude live stream with a pre-recorded segment during their intermission talking about the most important moment in Godzilla history. I picked Godzilla vs. Megalon's US release because of how important that is for the grand history of the franchise and the character being the first widely viewed Godzilla film. So I did do that technically. Outside of that, I did not watch any movies. I did not watch the stream. I did not join any streams. I didn't even really do. I don't think I even bought anything. So my Godzilla Day was very boring. Yeah.
No buying anything? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Buy everything.
I know. But Rex, what did you do on your Godzilla Day?
Well, I actually, shockingly enough, I happened to watch some Godzilla movies on that day. Can you believe it?
What Godzilla movies?
So the day before, I had seen Godzilla 54, so I decided, it's in the cinema right next to the one I saw 54 in. I was having a little Godzilla fun with a couple show movies, so I decided, I'll go see Godzilla Raids again. Why not?
Did you enjoy that at least?
Actually, yeah. I enjoyed it more than I think my last viewing. I don't know if I've necessarily completely come around to the film, but I think I do have a bit more respect for it,
Okay.
It's definitely not. It's very hard to come off 54, but even if it's still not great regardless, it kind of. I noticed it kind of reminded me of a bad Universal Monsters sequel. That's what it felt like to me. Yeah,
really.
That's what. Yeah, it felt a lot like that more than any other Godzilla movie does. And that's not even just. I don't know. It's not just because it's black and white. It's just something about it. It just reminds me of those. It really does.
I can see it. I can see it kind of like a House of Frankenstein or something.
Well, I haven't seen that one yet, but I don't know, kind of like Son of Dracula or whatever mummy sequel you want to pick.
What isn't it like the Mummy's Tomb, the Hand of the Mummy, and the Curse of the Mummy?
I think Mummy's Hand is the second one. Admittedly, I've only seen the first two Mummies thus far.
It's okay. The Mummy
Mummy's Hand.
Honestly, I feel like the Mummy's probably the worst of the Universal monsters.
Real, I didn't even really like the first one.
I think
I also don't like the Brendan Fraser movie, so...
I haven't seen the Brendan Fraser ones. I'm very behind on... I was supposed to watch... Oh, boy. I'll talk about this. I was supposed to watch a horror movie every night during October. It didn't work. I didn't watch anything.
Oof.
I watched like 2 horror movies, and then I got too busy and wrapped up with other situations going on. I never even got to watch... Like, I was going to watch Universal Monster movies, and it didn't work out.
Damn, that's a shame.
It was really sad.
But going back to Raids again, I'll give it credit where credit is due. I think not the lead character, Hiroshi Koizumi, but Kobayashi and Koizumi's love interest, Hidemi, legitimately pretty good characters for the short runtime. Like, you actually kind of care. So I appreciated that.
I think I do remember that. I remember them being strangely enough, the more like emotional characters, like the core emotional characters in contrast to our main character.
I think the thing is that Raids again, like for its faults narratively, and it has just a couple scenes where you get characters with having genuine banter. And I think that's what kind of works in Raids again, are those scenes. The Godzilla and Gira stuff is okay, I guess. It's not as good as 54. The lighting is a bit more plain, and there's screen direction issues in the fight at points. But, you know. But outside of Raids again, I also, literally the moment it finished, I walked out the cinema, went to the toilet, came back, bought a ticket to Mothra vs. Godzilla, and just walked straight in.
So how was that one?
It's probably the most I've enjoyed the film since my first watch, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I actually had a really good time with it for the most part. I will say the Godzilla scenes, not that they are bad, but I didn't like the audience I saw the movie with.
Really?
They were fine at every point except for when Godzilla was on screen. When Godzilla was on screen, I could just hear... and it was driving me mad.
What was that sound you just made?
Whispering. I could hear people whispering. Like, bear in mind, the movie is goddamn loud. Like, my eardrums were being shattered every time Godzilla roared. But I could still hear every goddamn whisper. Yeah, and I couldn't stop it, sadly. But, you know, at least they were respectful in every other scene, I guess.
Okay.
I guess. But yeah, no, it was pretty. I had a lot of fun with it, but I will say I've come around to the opinion that I think a fair few of the problems that you and I have with movies like Gigan and Megalon are things that first appear in Mothra vs. Godzilla.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's where some of the issues seemingly are birthed from, almost. I mean, you've got things like, one of my biggest pet peeves in any Godzilla movie is a final act or like fight scenes where the monsters will be fighting and the human characters are just watching on a hill. Mothra vs. Godzilla, maybe you could probably argue this with King Kong vs. Godzilla too, but yeah, Mothra vs. Godzilla just has like the characters just standing around waiting for Mothra to die.
Well, that's okay. So you just said this, and like that's a trope in any Shinichi Sekizawa script.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like in King Kong versus Godzilla, there's obviously the back and forth on who will win, right? We have the characters that have that dynamic of like, it's a wrestling match and we're seeing them cheer for the other, right?
Right.
You do have the human characters going to the island to rescue the children, but that's after their story has already concluded.
Right.
So it feels unnecessary. Ghidorah, however, we still have the assassins and trying to save the princess and whatnot, and that's where I think
I'd say Ghidorah doesn't really have that issue because it's got the whole assassin subplot.
And then you have Astro Monster, which again doesn't have that issue. They're trying to destroy the alien race while Godzilla is fighting Ghidorah. Ebra, you have them trying to escape the island.
I mean, in Astro Monster, Godzilla fights Ghidorah after the aliens are defeated, but the fight is like 2 minutes long. It's not, if even that. you know?
Right.
The movie has so little runtime left that that's just not an issue.
Yeah. And then like for Ebra and Son of Godzilla, they're trying to get off the island, right? Destroy all monsters, they are fighting the aliens. Hedorah, the humans are directly responsible for killing Hedorah with Godzilla's aid, you know? So in Gigan's case, once they kill the aliens, which the aliens don't even really matter for the monsters outside of the Godzilla Tower, that part of that plot is no longer important. So I think you do bring up a great point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've also got like other things, like in Megalon, a common critique of that movie is, you know, the empty fields and lack of scale because of that. But, you know, that's something that Mothra-verse Godzilla has with a lot of its Godzilla scenes when he's fighting the military or fighting Mothra even. There's not really many buildings there. Sure, some of them might... some of those scenes are filmed a little, like, compared to Megalon in particular, it's like lower angled shots and Godzilla's slower, but regardless, I still think it's an issue in those scenes a bit, if it's an issue in Megalon. Yeah, no, it was still an enjoyable experience, but I definitely really took note this time of how the character story really ends at around, like, in the Infant Island scene.
Right.
Takarada, they kind of set up an arc for Takarada that doesn't really get fully fulfilled. And I don't know, things like that kind of leave me wanting a little more of the script.
That's interesting. Whenever we eventually go back and rewatch all these Godzilla films after we've like watched them like with a critical eye and doing the research and the social and like research, I'm really curious. I mean, that alone, like reevaluating Mothra versus Godzilla is like kind of the beginning of our problems that we both seem to have with this franchise. I think that's very interesting. And I think that will eventually, when we do that, it'll come back around and it might make for a great conversation on where the franchise started to falter and why other films didn't and whatnot. I think that's going to be a very interesting conversation down the road.
We'll see. Yeah, that was pretty much most of how I spent my Godzilla day. I mean, I watched bits and pieces of the stream. Like, I watched the beginning of it before, while I was on the bus before arriving for raids again, and I watched a little bit at near the end, little bits near the end afterwards. And then, of course, I watched the short film.
So did you do anything else on Godzilla Day, or was that the extent of it?
Nothing else that I would say is particularly like exciting or interesting for the viewers or listeners, sorry.
Fair enough. So I guess with that, we can kind of go into the events and the announcements and whatnot that did occur. Now, before we go into all of it, so before each of these main topics, we're going to highlight, because here's the thing. There are a plethora of shows, of articles, of emails, of announcements, of live streams, of probably other podcasts that have covered the slew of merchandise. There was so much merchandise. You have so many companies doing stuff, especially in the clothing area. We're not going to really cover the merchandise announced because, first of all, this is not a visual medium. I'm not going to sit here and explain to you that Bandai is doing a movie monster series, Godzilla 1965, where he's dancing and he's got a rock formation base, and you can take him off of that. And I'm not going to like explain to you all the finite details of that.
Ironically, that might be the one merch announcement that I would consider from this Godzilla Day that I would consider buying.
I thought about it too. There was actually two separate dancing Godzilla figures announced, and I thought that was hilarious.
Wait, what was the second one?
Super 7 also announced they're doing a reaction minifigure of that.
I thought that was announced before. Oh well.
It might have been announced before, but it was for Godzilla Day.
Right.
So.
Well, I didn't even know that one.
Yeah. So with that being said, before each of these main categories that we're going to talk about, we're going to highlight one piece of merchandise that we enjoyed seeing, that we might have purchased, or that we think is willing to point out. So
Let's
I'm going
get
to
the
start
obvious one out the way.
Well, you pick one, go ahead, and then I'll pick one and go ahead.
Well, I think we both know that the standout this year was the new Monster Arts announcement.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Anguirus.
Which it's kind of weird because they announced it with the 1972 date, even though it's the 1968 suit.
I mean, it makes sense given they've just done like the Godzilla and the Gigan from 72, and I mean the colors are clearly, I think the colors are more based on the 72.
That's true.
Look.
That's true.
I
wonder
the colors actually look more like the water suit than.
I was about to say that's probably what
suit.
they based it off of. They probably based it off of the water suit.
Yeah, because look at the colors kind of not entirely fan of.
Yeah, it's really dark brown. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's really cool. And like you said, it's this. We have Godzilla 72, and we have Gigan 72. So,
but the strange part is no Monster Arts Ghidorah.
I almost feel like they're going to announce, like, the one thing that SH Monster Arts has never done is a Showa Ghidorah. And there's a bootleg out there.
It's so bizarre to not announce that, like, for the Ghidorah's 60th.
Yeah, you're right. it is a little wild.
It's actually really weird because from what I could tell, there were hardly any Ghidorah merch announcements.
I know there were 2 from Super 7.
See, I would barely even count that because that's like on the American figure side.
Right. I'm trying to. There was a Bandai announced for that box set. I'm going to talk about that later.
Oh God! Right. Yeah, there was that. But even
I think there might have been a couple of like various like. I think there was like a weird statue that's like a Japanese company's doing it, and I think there was a couple of like T-shirts or like apparel things. But I think that's genuinely it.
I mean, I think the T-shirts were more for the short film itself.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That is weird because they did nothing to celebrate Mechagodzilla.
Well, at least they have they've done like a fair few like Showa Mechagodzilla figures recently, and I think there was like a recent stream or something dedicated to like Mechagodzilla merch. I think a month ago. So yeah. At least that one like kind of makes sense. But Ghidorah was legitimately surprising. I was expecting more.
I mean, he did show up in the short, if you want to count that.
That is true. But yeah, Anguirus is still very cool, though.
It is.
People have been waiting like a decade for that figure.
Now, I still got to get the Godzilla and the Gigan, and I do want to. I did buy Hedorah. I never got Gigan. I never got Godzilla. I do want to get these eventually, but Oh, that's right. I didn't get Jet either, but I forgot that Jet's coming. But either way, I do want to buy it eventually, whenever it's available, and I have the funds and I want to buy it. Isn't it like $150?
It's like 1,600 yen. I mean, in USD, that would probably be a bit less, but for me, it's like 150 or so.
Oh, wow. Now, you mentioned Anguirus, so I'm actually going to pivot off of that one, and I'm going to pick something else, and that was a re-release of the X Plus Gigan Shinichi Wakasa suit.
Oh, on the Godzilla store?
Yeah, they reissued it for the Godzilla store, and
I
people
only saw that like an hour ago. I didn't even hear about that.
I think it's hilarious because collectors that like back that or like used a proxy to get it like spent probably a lot more than what they're charging on the site for.
Oof.
So I think that's really funny.
My pain when the Godzilla -1 collector's edition Blu-ray got announced in the UK and Australia.
And it had everything subbed. Yeah.
Yeah. I scammed myself.
Speaking of scamming yourself and releases, I think this is a good segment into our first main topic, and that was the announcement of 2 new physical media releases. The first one that we're going to talk about being the 4K Godzilla 70th Anniversary box set.
Oh, yes, the one with the interesting selection.
Yeah, now, okay, so should we break down what movies are included and what this means for the 4K side of Godzilla? Should we do that first?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so what films are included, Rex?
It was Godzilla Raids Again, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Terror of Mechagodzilla 84, Mechagodzilla 93, Final Wars.
Which I was really shocked at the Final Wars.
Yeah, Final
inclusion.
Wars was a bit of a surprise to me. I'm curious if that's just going to be an upscale.
Because, well, if
really it wouldn't the digital effects be like, wouldn't they be like capped at 1080p pretty much?
yes, but in theory you could still, because the film was shot on 35 millimeter.
Yeah, but was it mastered on 35 or like obviously digital effects, but
I think
I don't know.
I don't think it'll be an upscale
process.
I don't think it's just an upscale. I think it is going to be a full-on 4K restoration. My big question is going to be, is it going to be... Grade? Yes, because if Kitamura is involved, which he did post about it, Kitamura is going to remove all that color grading. We already know that. He did that with Versus.
Well, that's why I'm curious to see stills and videos from the Final Wars 4K. But granted, it's Toho, so I could fully expect it to just be lazy. So even if Kitamura wanted to be involved, there's a good possibility they just did it on their own.
You're right.
Knowing Toho.
Right. Now, with this, that means we have the first... We have from 54 to 65 in 4K, which I think is great, right? We have the first wave of Godzilla films.
Mm-hmm.
We are still missing Ibra and Son of Godzilla. We do have Destroy All Monsters. We're missing All Monsters Attack. So that the late 60s is kind of shaky, right? And then in the 70s, now we have Mechagodzilla and Terror, which means we have everything but Gigan. But since we do have Destroy All Monsters, Gigan's technically half already remastered. And then we have both 80s Godzilla films. And we have none of the 90s besides Mechagodzilla. And we have none of the Millennium series besides Final Wars.
Right.
So it's an interesting situation.
I'm surprised Final Wars is the first Millennium movie to get a remaster. Like, I get this one. The idea for this release is mostly meant to be like anniversary movies and Raids Again and Terror. But I'm still surprised that Final Wars is the first Millennium remaster.
Right. Because
I would have expected like GMK or even like the Mechagodzilla duology.
Maybe first. 2000.
2000, yeah, that too, yeah.
But
frankly, anything other than Mega Garrison.
Literally, Mega Garrison Final Wars, the two films that doesn't really have a good track record in the Millennium era. Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm complaining about Pete getting a remaster. As long as it's good, we'll find out.
But it is very interesting because with this announcement, we now have more Japanese Godzilla films in 4K than we don't.
Mm.
And I think I'm curious to see what next year will bring us because I'm almost certain they're going to cap off the 60s Godzilla films. They'd have to, right?
Quite possibly. Or they just
even
go to Heisei and Millennium.
Or even just finish up Showa era because there's 4 films left in the Showa era they haven't done.
Mm.
One of them being Honda. I feel like they're prioritizing the Honda films considering what's all been released. They still have one of his plus 3 of Fukuda's. But I'd be curious, or maybe they do skip and they go to the Millennium era. I'm sure the Millennium era is easier to remaster because those prints are not in as decrepit of a, of a state. But to that point, that also could be made. Ibra is about to hit 60 years old. They should probably remaster that before those prints get too damaged, right?
Oh, if next year's Ibra is... no, not next year's. Next year's not Ibra's anniversary, but...
The print's still almost 60 years old.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure they'll come, like, down the line, like I'm sure they'll get to it within like the next couple years, and they'll probably get a physical release soon enough. It's not like Rodan, surely,
or the Mysterians, or Mothra.
Mothra at least got broadcast on TV. Rodan.
Did Rodan just got like a theatrical screening, right?
Yeah, and it's never been mentioned again.
Poor Rodan.
He's still stuck to an awful looking Blu-ray remaster
with digital enhancements.
Yeah.
Now,
ugly color grade.
Gorath also got one, but and Atragon, both of them got it, but never on.
I mean, I don't think they've even had their theatrical releases yet. Like, I think that's still upcoming, if I remember right.
Is that still upcoming?
I think so. I mean, I haven't checked in however long, but
Either way, it is cool that this stuff continues to roll out, and I think that's
very
something.
Funny the price tag though.
Yeah. So before we mention that, so what comes in the set is a Mechagodzilla 2 emblem replica.
If you get the special, edition.
Yeah. Godzilla 70 Years in Modeling book, Hiroo Nakajima and Kenpachiro Satsuma Tour of Toho, the legendary Godzilla head, Godzilla 1984 Rush footage, Godzilla Complete Movie Collection trailer, Godzilla Resurrection Festival 1983 trailer, Godzilla vs. Biollante promotional material, Sebon Godzilla, Tarakazuka, Family Land, Go Godzilla. And so that's the bonus features. And apparently there's more to be announced from what I read.
I mean, it comes with like a booklet too.
Yeah, that's the Godzilla 70 Years in Modeling book.
Right.
And isn't it $375?
It would be nice if it was, wouldn't it?
Is it more?
In USD, it is about like 400.
I got a message today saying it went down on Amazon Japan.
Oh, I did hear it went down in Amazon Japan, but like on the Godzilla store, it's about like 400.
Oh boy.
For me, that's like $650. By the way,
wow.
That's mental.
Now it is important to note that it is 6 movies, and historically speaking, like for each 4K release, isn't it like $80 a pop?
It's like. Probably about like 7. It depends on if it's a special release. I remember King Kong vs. Godzilla was very expensive, but that one was a special release. I think the others were like probably about like 60, 70, if I had to.
So
guess.
70 times 6, 7 times 6, 420. That's about the price it should be, right?
Yeah, sure.
The only argument is the whole concept of I'm buying them in a bulk box set. I should get a discount, right?
Mm-hmm.
But clearly that's not the case.
I get why. I know it's Japan's rental market is still a thing. Like DVD rentals are still a thing there. But Jesus Christ, that is an insane price tag to own a couple movies or a handful of movies.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Oh, the 4K is even cheaper, actually, than what I said. It's like 6,000 yen for like 54's 4K. So that's like it's $68. So that's like $40 for you on Amazon Japan.
Oh,
and then they're actually on a discount of like 4,800 yen.
Well, you never know. Maybe it is just announced, and typically prices do go down, right?
Goddamn better.
My whole thing is I'm not going to buy it either way. I've already invested in the Western releases. I'm just going to keep with those. I know I'm going to have inferior releases, and I may never get actual good transfers. But also, I don't watch these movies enough to complain. I watch them maybe once a year.
I mean, they shut down like the main lab that was. I think they shut down like the main lab that was doing like the good 4Ks. So, these new 4Ks are going to be cheaper anyways. So, yay.
Lovely. I can't wait. And also, here's the thing. I genuinely do believe that down the road, we are going to get an announcement of a 4K Godzilla box set from America.
Bro, by the time the other 4Ks get their American release, there's going to be a second gen of all these movies 4Ks that are actually
probably
have effort put in.
Probably. Let's be real here.
I would not expect anything less from Toho.
And then we'll just have those releases for another 20 years until they release the new ones.
Yeah. But speaking of Blu-rays, Fest Godzilla.
Yeah, we're getting a Blu-ray box set. Now, what's the specs on that? I haven't seen the specs on that yet.
Well, the specs on that is pretty much all 5 of the Fest Godzilla shorts, as well as making ofs and an interview with some of the crew members, like the Godzilla suit actor, yeah.
So that's going to include... So it's going to be the Hedorah one, the Gigan one, the Jet Jaguar one, the Ghidorah one, and then that very first one that's like the Heisei Godzilla just walking through a city.
Godzilla appears in Tsukagawa?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
So...
I might have named the A.G. Tsuburaya Museum one, but you know what.
Yes. Yeah, I think the Tsukagawa one is the Tsuburaya one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that being said, you know, this is, first of all, thank God they're not just Kickstarter exclusives anymore. I'm happy about that. Second of all, I'm happy they're getting released, but I'm curious when we will get those. If we will get them. I could see that being a Godzilla store, like they subtitle them and release them on the Godzilla store.
Sure, I could see that happening, or even like, I don't know, eventual Criterion box set bonus feature.
Yeah.
Like for whenever they put out like the Millennium movies.
Mm-hmm. That would actually be a good idea.
But yeah, I look forward to this release purely so that we can see these festival films, particularly this new one, in not live stream quality.
Yeah.
That would be really nice. Thanks, Toho, for not uploading Gigan or this new Ghidorah one in HD on a YouTube video publicly. Thanks, guys. Really awesome. Love it.
Now, what's the price point on this? Isn't it like 60 USD?
Its list price on Amazon Japan is like 5,500 yen. So that's like 50 for like AU dollars. So it's probably like 40 US dollars, 35 US dollars. But it's like that's even lower than that actually. Because it's like 4,700 on this Amazon sale. So yeah.
That's not bad. I mean,
so like $30.
Either way, $30 is a lot considering it's 5 short films.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even an hour runtime, but I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. I paid $20 for Zillafoot, so
yeah. I feel like this is at least a little more bang for your buck in some regards.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I don't really have much more to say. Like, if it comes to the Godzilla US store, I'll buy it, but I'm not going to buy it without English subs. Plain and simple.
I'd maybe buy it. I don't know. I would like to own all these shorts eventually sometime. I just don't know if I'd buy it from this set or if I'd wait. I don't know. I could definitely see it being like a bonus feature on like a future Criterion release, maybe.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, especially if they do the whole, what I've been calling the classic Toho collection, which is all the Suitmation stuff, I could totally see them doing a box set and including these on the box set as like bonus, like short film, like just various short films. I could see them doing that.
Yeah. Outside of that, I don't have too much else to say on it.
Well, why don't we transition into some more merchandise?
I thought it was very funny when the Bandai guys got on stage and showed a plushie of the Oxygen Destroyer. I thought that was very amusing, having just rewatched 54.
So is that your merchandise pick for this second round?
Yeah. An overpriced premium Bandai Oxygen Destroyer plush.
It's premium Bandai?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes.
How much is it?
Oh, I don't remember the exact price. I think it was like 70, something like that.
Oh my god.
This is like a reseller, so it's probably marked up, but yeah. There's a American retailer putting it up at 80 USD.
Oh my god. What a merchandising scheme. The
Hell
Oxygen Destroyer.
Hell yeah. Let's just start selling plushies of nuclear bombs next.
I was about to say.
Like, they should have really hopped on that Oppenheimer train.
Oh my god. Well, if we're going to move on, then I think what I'm going to end up picking is the Waxworks 54 vinyl. They announced a new vinyl release of the Godzilla 54 soundtrack. Now, previously, the film, a European vinyl label released it a couple years ago. I have that. And then I think it was Waxworks also released the Godzilla Showa era box set of vinyl that had 54 included. And now we're getting a solo release with new artwork and a Atomic Breath vinyl variant, which is really cool. I will try to buy it. I own most of the Godzilla vinyls. Not really. I haven't bought a single Mondo one. I think I own like the Rodan one. But I mean, I'd buy them if they weren't $50 a pop.
I will say with this new one, I did like the how the artwork for it with Godzilla seems to be based on the puppet. I like that. I thought
honestly, I love that look for Godzilla. That looks really cool.
It looks really
saw that
good in art.
I saw that and I was like, oh my god, this Godzilla could work.
Yeah. Oh, also, I think there was like a new release in Japan on the day for remasters of all the Godzilla soundtracks.
Oh, that's right. That was announced.
CDs, I think?
Yeah, it was a CD. Yeah. Which so, I'd love. I'd love to see all that stuff get a digital release, like the -1 deluxe.
It'd
deluxe
be nice
edition.
to even put the Heisei and Millennium soundtracks on Spotify.
Right, because I think Return of Godzilla and Biollante are available on like Amazon or Spotify.
Not Biollante. It's like up to Return of Godzilla.
And it's weird because like it was the same time they were uploading all of the trailers to YouTube. Like they would upload the Japanese trailer to the English YouTube, and then like the soundtrack would become available on Spotify like within a couple days. And then after 84 they just stopped, and it sucks because Ifukube's best work was after 84. He didn't do 84, but what I'm saying is like Ifukube did a lot of bangers in the Heisei era. Ghidorah, Mothra, Mechagodzilla, and Destroy are literally some of his best works.
His soundtracks for those movies are also the best part of those movies.
It is. The best part of Mechagodzilla 2 is the opening title music.
Honestly, real. Bro, when I walked in the cinema for Raids Again, that cinema, I think, had just finished playing Shin Godzilla, so I could hear that music as I was walking in. It goes so hard. It's
so good. Like, he had no right to do that song. And it's so glorious. It's... that is an example of how Ifukube, like, that, right? It's weird because Ifukube made a ton of, like, Mechagodzilla's theme is that bum, 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 bum. That's not Ifukube, that's Sato, right? That bombastic bum, ba, da, dun, da, dun, dun, dun. Bro, the main titles for Mechagodzilla 2 is such a better theme for Mechagodzilla. Like, that is, like, I love that song. I love that. That's top 5 Ifukube tracks, period.
Bro, that song is incredible in a theater.
I can't even imagine how amazing that is.
It sounds incredible on theater speakers. So those are cool. Outside of that, they had their yearly Movie Monster series competition, like fan choice announcement. And
I'm hyped.
And thanks to primarily American voters, next Movie Monster series figure is the Giant Condor.
And I feel like a lot of people are angry at that. I have no evidence. I just feel like a lot of people would be. But I'm actually excited.
I think Japanese Twitter was confused from what I heard, but also in full support of it. I
love the fact that Giant Condor, Skeleturtle, and Odaku. I'm like, we need more merchandise of those.
It is very humorous that it was 65% of the votes for it came from America.
That says a lot about the American audiences.
But this is also funny coming off the shock of, like, what was it? The giant octopus being added to Battle Line and everyone being confused by that vote. And that was the Japanese audience.
I love that. I love all of that. I think it's hilarious.
I think it's based.
I will buy the giant condor. I will buy it. Like Bagan, like there's ones, like I don't buy a lot of movie monster series stuff, but like their Daimajin one, their Bagan one, this giant condor one, I'll buy the like weird stuff. Like that's where I'm at in my collecting, is I buy the weird stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Now, speaking of weird stuff, Godzilla Battle Line did have its annual like showcasing and tournaments and whatnot. And at the very end, they teased another Gamera crossover with Gamera 67 and Gyaos.
Yeah.
67.
I mean, not even teased. I think it's actually like in the game now, I think.
Oh, already? Oh, wow.
Yeah, because like I haven't played the game in ages, but my phone icon for it is Godzilla and Gamera, so.
Interesting. Now, this isn't the first time they've crossed over. There was a whole Gamera Rebirth promotional campaign with, didn't it have Guiron and Gamera?
No, it was Gyaos and Gamera.
Gyaos and Gamera, okay. So this isn't the first time. Don't get too hyped over this. It really means nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's Battle Line. Like, they crossed over with Kamen Rider and Ultraman and Evangelion. It doesn't really matter. It's just a thing they're doing.
Hey, it's another Godzilla Gamera collab. These things, look, man.
They happen.
No, they don't happen. That's exactly why it's interesting.
That's true. You got a point. Now, I don't really have much more to say about that. Do you?
Not really.
Okay.
Something government propaganda.
Yep, government propaganda. Now, there is something that we didn't put in our outline here of stuff we're covering, so we're going to transition into more merch highlights, and then I'm going to jump into our next topic. I'm going to jump in and I guess it's your turn to go. Go.
I guess this isn't really merch, but I'll highlight. Do you remember the Godzilla like light show that they have, like on the government the Metropolitan building?
Yes.
Yeah, they're making a new one of those called Tokyo Godzillas. It seems to feature like a bunch of seemingly like all main Godzillas. Like it's got -1, Shin, Heisei, Millennium, yada yada yada. So that might be interesting. I can't wait for them to spend more than the budget of Godzilla -1 again on that.
Now, I didn't put this in our outline, but there is an upcoming Godzilla complete new comic coming from Young Champion.
That.
So, what are the details on that, Rex?
Well, it's called Godzilla Kanzen Shinsaku Comic, so Godzilla complete new comic. It's got the Godzilla design is going to be from Shinji Nishikawa. Very exciting, of course. If you know who Nishikawa is, a designer on the previous on several, I should say, previous Godzilla films, Ultraman, Gridman, etc., etc. And then outside of him, you've got a brand new space brand new space monster by Hiroshi Maruyama, who is an Ultraman creature designer. And there's also going to be mechanical designs by Ju Ishiguchi, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also the writer of the manga.
Now, it's expected to come out in 2025. It'll be, like I said, it's going to be published in a magazine.
Yes.
And who knows how long it'll go for. I'm kind of excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's interesting. First big new Godzilla manga in ever. Since, like, what, Godzilla comic?
Yeah.
And that, I don't think that one was even really, like, serialized. That was just, like, a one-off release that they got a bunch of artists for. And then they did the Raids Again sequel manga.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hopefully it gets translated. I'm hopeful for that.
That'd be nice, but I'm not holding out hope, to be honest.
Likewise.
but I look forward to seeing cool pictures from the Raws.
Likewise. Now, unless you have anything else to say, we can transition to our next merch highlight.
Yeah, outside of those, this wasn't technically announced on Godzilla Day, but it was, like, I think it went up for pre-order on them, was the new Arbiter Studio Godzilla mousepad and keyboards.
Yeah, they also announced keycaps. I don't know what keycaps are.
Those are like, like your H key. That's a keycap.
What?
Your H key or your G key. Any keys on the keyboard.
Oh.
Do you know what a keyboard is? Yeah, the keys, the individual keys. The buttons you press, those are keycaps. Mm-hmm.
So what? You would what? That's stupid.
You can take them off and replace them.
That's stupid.
People do it. It's normal.
Stupid.
I mean, I wouldn't buy any of the keycaps personally because, I prefer just having what it says. But yeah, it's an option for people. Interesting.
I'm not going to buy them. I'm not a gamer.
I would maybe consider one of the mouse pads.
That doesn't surprise me.
Because I kind of need a new mouse pad.
Buy one. Unless you can't, and then have me buy me one. I'll buy you one, but you have to pay me for it.
Oh wait, are they Godzilla Store exclusives?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, if they are, then screw those. I'm not buying any of them.
Speaking of Godzilla Store,
it is cool that Terrell Christie got to work on the little promotional video for it, though.
Yes, that's really exciting. I'm so glad for him. I'm so happy he got that. Now, speaking of Godzilla, shorts and whatnot, it wouldn't be a Godzilla Day stream without Godzilla Fest shorts. And we did get Godzilla Fest 5, Battle of the Monsters. So should we just kind of recap what happened, kind of our highlights, and kind of go from there?
I mean, it's not exactly the most story-intensive short film of all time, so I feel like it'll be pretty quick to go through.
Yeah, I mean, this short suffers from the whole people are standing somewhere it's literally standing in a boardroom watching it happen.
Yeah, that is actually true. But frankly, all of these short films have been that. Yeah.
We do start off the short film with a recap of the previous two shorts with Jet Jaguar and King Ghidorah.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of establishing where we are and whatnot. And we do get some cool Biollante music. The soundtrack picks for this short were really cool.
Yeah, this is probably actually the best tracks they've picked in any of these shorts.
I agree.
The best selection. It kind of elevates the short at a couple points almost.
Absolutely, it does. And we'll talk about the one I'm thinking of specifically that elevated it. So, anyways, we get into the short. We get a very Godzilla versus King Ghidorah title sequence where it fades in with fire and whatnot, kind of like the opening to 91, with Godzilla and Ghidorah and Jet opposite sides of the screen, standing in this beautiful, beautiful miniature set.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think, was there really much? I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, it looks good, I think that the set they're using is very beautiful.
I think the fight itself is kind of okay. Ghidorah kind of suffers from being too static for most of the fight. He kind of just stands there and shoots his beam for most of it.
One thing
I think leads to it not being as exciting as it could be.
Actually, it's funny you bring that up because while watching the short, I legitimately was like, I don't remember a Ghidorah that moved as frantically as 64 since 64.
Right. But in this short, he doesn't even really ever fly.
Yeah, he kind of jumps up into the sky and then he goes back down.
God, does he even do that? I'm trying to think of where he does that.
I think he does it once. I think it's at the very beginning. It's at the very beginning when he like lands. It might even just be stock footage from the last film.
I'm pretty sure that's just stock footage from the last one.
Yeah, but I do agree it is a little funky, like watching this fight mostly be Jet and Godzilla approaching Ghidorah, and Ghidorah just kind of standing there and doing a lot of nothing.
Right.
And I do find the humans, I don't know, I haven't seen the other shorts in a while, but I thought it was kind of stupid to like. Okay, so we do get Yuji Kaida and Norman England cameos in the boardroom, which is kind of cool.
And Kasai, of course.
Yes.
He's in all of these.
But I remember thinking, why are we watching them? What's the point? Like,
well, they contribute one thing,
but you don't even really need them there for that. Let's
true. This is true.
I just remember thinking, like, okay, I don't care. I don't care watching these people talk about this.
Right, because it is essentially just a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
That can easily be told in visual storytelling and pretty much is otherwise.
Right.
Like, I think it at least fits for the Jet Jaguar short a little because you have to you're establishing that they've built Jet Jaguar.
Mm-hmm.
But here it just ends up being more superfluous.
Right. Exactly. And I will say this. While all of that's boring, I do think that the fight actually has some very clever stuff. It's very Ultraman because the director is an Ultraman director, right?
Right. I mean, Jet Jaguar is the highlight of this once again. Like,
now,
all the Godzilla stuff is fine. The choreography with him isn't terribly interesting, but Jet Jaguar, my God.
Honestly, I felt like they put Godzilla in a backseat for this because he doesn't really.
He doesn't really get all that in the action with Ghidorah until like near the end.
Yeah, literally all of my notes are on Ghidorah and Jet until the very end.
Yeah.
Now so we do get a cool, like, Ghidorah's given the whole force fielded thing again, like from Planet Eater and GMK.
And the white eyes.
And the white eyes, which is a really cool given for this Ghidorah. And we do get a beam clash between Ghidorah and Godzilla that ends in Godzilla getting knocked down, and after that he's kind of put off for the rest of the short until the end. The rest is Jet trying to fight Ghidorah, and they're both failing and whatnot. And then the humans continue to point out things on the screen and then say that they're going to send in the G-Claws.
Yes. Modified versions of Gigan's hands equipped for Jet Jaguar.
Now, okay, did you take it as kind of a nod to Singular Point with how Jet did have that spear that like had the Kamakris claw? I kind of took it as that.
It was Anguirus spike. But
that's right.
I didn't take it as that. I thought it was just like they had and I'm pretty sure this is basically what they say in the behind the scenes, is that it was just a cool idea they had where it's like, what if we took Gigan's claws but put them on Jet Jaguar? Wouldn't that be sick? Because
it looks cool.
There's like an image from the behind the scenes of them just plopping Bandai Gigan's hands on Jet Jaguar Bandai.
I've seen that photo. That's actually really hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, when Jet gets the Gigan hands, we get some Final Wars music,
Bro, it's the training scene from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and
incredible.
It's like, it's so good. And then
they play Kazama's sacrifice as well.
Mm-hmm. I was so glad. I was like, wow, they're putting in. So they do, if I remember correctly, they do. Now, don't mention the final song. I want to talk about the final song at the end. They do Biolante music. They do Final Wars music.
Several Final Wars tracks, yeah.
Yeah, they do 2 Final Wars. I think they do 2 Biolante. Oh, they do.
They play like Mothra's theme as well.
Yes, they do. That's right, they do. Which felt really out of place, to be honest. I was like, is Mothra going to show it, or are they playing that for Godzilla to charge his beam up here?
I was meant to make Jet's the whole like sacrifice playing that up.
It didn't work. It did not work. I think they did do a Kiryu Saga song. I think
so.
Yeah, they did the
Kiryu Saga ones.
There was a military march. It was a military march one. Yeah, they did 2 Biollante, 3 Final Wars, and 1 Military March from the Kiryu Saga. And then there's a song at the very end that I'm going to talk to you about when we get there. Now, we do get what some fans have labeled the Orai beams, which is Ghidorah having red, white, and blue beams.
Right. Well, did you also notice that when he charges it up, like right before he shoots, there's like a few frames where you see him in like the original like 64 like blue color scheme?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Yeah, because he's got like the blue, but like if you pay attention, the color scheme is very specific to that original, the suit on the poster, the rainbow Ghidorah.
Yeah, I loved the new that I love the idea of multicolored Ghidorah beams. I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and they're basically the Kaiser Ghidorah ones as well. Which is
yeah,
weird.
because because they are, because he does get the ability to like lift Godzilla up with his gravity beams, which is very much Kaiser Ghidorah. And I would love to see more iterations of Ghidorah kind of approach Ghidorah like this, like with the whole multicolored beams. That being said, I need I'm tired of dead Ghidorahs. I'm tired of like, the cool thing about 64 is how frantic he moves, right? Like, honestly, I think that's the coolest part of him, is how frantic he is.
I mean, in this short's case, I imagine it's just limitations with that and limitations with this rotting suit.
Right. But
I know it's been restored for that one commercial and, for this, obviously. But, that suit, I'm sure the condition is a good reason why he's not moving that much.
Right.
I don't think they even credit a suit actor for him?
They do.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
I will say this, and I'm jumping ahead here, but I was kind of surprised they did a whole explosion, and the fact they took off his head. I was kind of surprised.
The head cutting off surprised me, but they cut the explosion in a specific way.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, they probably either composite. There is composites in that shot. It's very obvious.
It's the same. It's the exact like what they did with the Gigan, with blowing up Gigan. Like they didn't literally blow up the suit.
That makes sense. That being said, so speaking of Gigan, so the Gigan claws, whenever Jet gets them, he does, to cut off Ghidorah's head, they kind of pull a Kong axe thing where Godzilla charges up his breath.
Yeah, but it's Jet's way more hype.
Yeah, it is. Also, the whole like anime jump that Jet does, the backflip, is really cool.
Oh, and then when Godzilla does the Ultraman Gaia landing.
Yeah. I thought all of that was really cool. And then, of course, we get Jet stabbing Ghidorah in the chest and whatnot. And then we get Jet's ultimate sacrifice, and Godzilla like charges up his breath, which I thought they were going to do like a spiral beam, and they didn't. It was kind of felt anticlimactic, to be honest. They kind of pulled a Goku, Vegeta, Frieza on the 3, with Godzilla being Goku and Jet being Vegeta against Frieza. You didn't expect me to make a Dragon Ball reference, did you?
No, I did not, and I only understood about half of it. I've seen one Dragon Ball movie.
I know that the season finale of like the original Dragon Ball ends with Goku Kamehamehaing Vegeta because Vegeta's holding Frieza.
That's not the original Dragon Ball. That's Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, Dragon Ball Z, whatever. And Vegeta's like, do it, Goku. And then he does, and it goes through Vegeta and it kills Frieza. And then Vegeta goes to Dragon Ball heaven until he gets resurrected with the Dragon Balls.
Right. Yeah, that was English to me.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Point is, Ghidorah dies, happy days. Jet dies, sad days.
Also, the slow walk Godzilla, it's got to be the suit, because it looks horrible how Godzilla walks up to Jet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this suit has not been looking great in any of these shorts, but...
No.
like even
Hopefully,
when it gets into the roaring poses, like the way the arm, a part of me wonders if it's the suit performance in like with the arms, but the arms are so like he holds his arms so close to his chest when he roars.
Yes,
it looks wrong.
It's
like
also
he needs to have them out more, I feel.
Yeah, it's too baggy. It's too like it's obvious they're afraid to stretch this thing.
Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised he did the whole Gaia land.
Maybe that's why they put Jet in the focus of this one, is to just not damage that suit too much.
Probably. Either way, I do think it's obvious that so this short ends on a point where Godzilla goes off into the ocean and that's it, right? That's the end. It's very much like a send-off, like, okay, it's over, we're done, right? And the fact they're doing a box set, it really seems like this is the final short film.
Which I figured last time it probably would be the last one.
Now, during the end credits, we do get footage from the previous 4 shorts, and we get the Godzilla Island theme song.
A new version of it, yeah.
Yeah, I was really shocked by that.
Likewise. Well, I would have been had people not spoiled it for me.
Oh.
It was so sad seeing the G-Claw spoiled for me as well. But
I did get that spoiled.
It was still hyped when it happened, though, no matter what.
So I there's not really much more to talk about this short. I guess we can ask. I'm going to ask you overall. What did you think? How does it compare to the previous ones? And we'll go from there.
I would say I think it's definitely a step down from the previous last year's Jet Jaguar short. I think that was definitely the best one that they've done. I'd have to rewatch the others. I don't know if I prefer this to the Gigan one or not. I don't know.
I'd put the Jet one first. I'd put Gigan second, this one third, Hedera fourth.
I'd have to rewatch them, but giving Jet Jaguar the Gigan hands does kind of bump it up a little for me.
I would say that this short is exciting, but I also found it. I was just kind of bored.
I wasn't bored, but I was a little underwhelmed.
Underwhelmed's a better term, because like also there's some cool dolly shots that the director chose, like low angle dolly shots following the action. There's a really cool shot where Jet does a slide and it cuts. It has 3 different cuts. And it's 3 different takes of this slide from different angles, and it looks really cool. But it's like, while that stuff's really cool, I just couldn't find myself getting too engaged in what I was seeing.
Yeah, I think a big issue is because, like, since these aren't very story-driven shorts, it's entirely your entertainment is entirely relied on the monster action. With Ghidorah being so stationary, it leads to it just not being all that exciting, particularly compared to the Jet Jaguar one where, Jet Jaguar and Godzilla are running around, trying to run around each other.
Right, exactly. And, I was really hoping for more, and I'm a little disappointed that this is what we got, but either way, it is what it is, and I didn't hate it, right? I will rewatch it eventually. Fun. It's fun. I think another issue, and this is really all I have left to say on it. Another issue is the constant cutting back to this boardroom. I remember looking, and this isn't meant to throw shade at Norman. I'm not being like, I'm not trying to say anything rude to Norman. But I did think it was funny. I'm like, he got called. I mean, I would do it too, right? Like, if I'm asked to do official Godzilla stuff, I'm not going to say no. But he got called to show up to this set at Toho to stand and stare up at a light for probably 5 hours. And I can't help but think how boring that must be. Oh, it's just funny, like, knowing that that's literally, like, your direction is, okay, show up in, like, a business outfit, stare at this point in the ceiling, feel scared,
that
here.
was probably given to him by the costume designer. That was probably supplied for him. He got that for free.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, he probably didn't get to keep it, but you know.
Right. Either way, like my whole point is I do think it's funny that like they got a boardroom of people to do this. There's like 12 people outside of the 3 people that talk in this that are literally just standing there staring up at a point that they've been directed to stare at.
That is the job. That is what extras tend to do.
I just think it's funny, you know. It's just a funny point. It is what it is. But
on that note, is there anything really left to say on?
I'm out. That's all I got.
Well, speaking of the extras, you know, on that sort of line, there have actually very recently been a couple new updates on, not necessarily for Godzilla Day, but there were a couple new updates I found on Monarch Legacy of Monsters that I thought were interesting.
Really?
Yeah, so first of all, filming still going underway in Queensland with I believe it was just reported like today or yesterday that during like October they were filming some scenes in the Brisbane Parliament House with some military police dudes. So, you know, got some new set photos from that. And interestingly enough, we got confirmation that the crew will be returning back to Japan for filming.
Sweet.
Yeah, because they're doing it under... I found out because of this that Japan actually has a new filming incentive program, like a cash rebate of like 50% that they're doing for about a year-ish. That was started in 2023. And yeah, so Monarch's coming back to Japan. So that's exciting.
That's good. I need more.
It won't be there for long, I think, because it sounds like they're only going to be there filming for a few days or so.
So it's probably just a narrative sequence or two. 1 or 2 sequences, probably.
If I had to guess, yeah. But still cool regardless.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, outside of that, that's pretty much it for all the Monarch updates.
Well, speaking of Toho, or not Toho, Japan and Godzilla stuff, you know, one thing that was not announced on Godzilla Day, but just a couple days prior, was a green light for production on a new Godzilla movie, written, directed, and supervised, the effects supervised by none other than Mr. Takashi Yamazaki.
Man, what an announcement that was. I came home so drunk, and I just see on Twitter, new Godzilla film, and I'm like, huh? I watched a video from Yamazaki, and I'm like, huh? Wait, is this for real? And I was so confused for like the next hour until I realized, oh, it's real.
Okay, so it is from Toho. So it's been reported, it's not confirmed to be a -1 sequel, but let's be real here, people. It's going to be a -1 sequel. Now, okay, here's the thing. I don't have a lot to say. Like, I'm thrilled. I'm happy because now Yamazaki has beaten Yoshimitsu Banno, Koji Hashimoto, Yamashita.
He hasn't beaten Wingard yet.
But now he's tied. He's tied now, right? Like, I'm happy about that. You know, he's now tied with Wingard, and he's one behind Tezuka. He's one behind Okawara. He's one behind Omori. He's like 3 behind Fukuda, and he's never going to beat Honda.
Bro, the hype train has begun.
Okay, so what we do know is he declined offers from Marvel. He's declined offers from other studios, probably Lucasfilm.
Yeah, I think definitely a Star Wars offer. They throw everyone offers that don't even happen, so you know.
he was offered a ton following Godzilla, and he said no because he wanted to come back and do a Godzilla sequel.
Yeah.
Which says a lot. You know, that makes me thrilled because that proves to me that Yamazaki is like the guy to do this.
He is. He just is him.
He said no to a Hollywood movie.
Bro, he said
to
no
do
to
a Godzilla movie.
I know Star Wars is like a joke now, but Yamazaki is in the industry because of Star Wars, you know?
Yeah.
That'd be like a dream project.
Yeah. And the fact that he's furthering his dream. Now, I'm saying it now. As long as this next film comes through and does well, we're getting a third film. I'm going to say it now. He's going to do a trilogy.
That would be very cool. I would happily support that.
I've said this before, and I'm just going to repeat it here. And again, I don't have a lot to say. This is going to be his Always Sunset trilogy. His second Always Sunset trilogy.
So can it be like an Always Sunset 2 case where I like this one even more?
I would hope so. I'd love for it to be that, you know. I do know he said it's a bit concerning because he's not entirely certain how to live up to the first one.
Right.
But
don't do an Always Sunset 3 ending and you'll be fine.
I definitely think they're going to tackle the horrors, probably more of I don't know, maybe like rebuilding. You know, this is the Fallout rebuilding. Rebuilding could be the next thing they kind of tackle is how to handle rebuilding after the Fallout. I don't know. It's definitely interesting. There's no details except for the fact that he's returning. Toho's producing, and it's a Godzilla movie. It's too early to tell. I'm gonna say it now. I think it'll be a 2026 release date.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because we know he's working on a film now. He's going to finish that up probably next year, probably like midway through next year. He's going to jump right into, because he's writing now, right? It's greenlit. He's developing the story. He'll probably, who knows? Maybe it'll take him 2 years to come up with the story. Who knows? It can't be 2027. We know that for a fact. It can't be 2027 because that's when Godzilla Kong 3 comes out. So
well, not confirmed, but likely.
Yeah. So it's got to be 2026 or it's going to be 2028. 2026 makes more sense because that's 3 years later, right? The production on -1 was 4 years, but that was due to COVID. If it wasn't for COVID, it probably would have been a 2021, 2022 release, and then its sequel would have been in 2024. So 3 years seems about right. You know, 2026. He already said he has ideas, right? We already know he has ideas. It's just developing that story further. He set up a sequel, and that's really all that's really out.
He's mentioned that Noriko neck a few times.
The Noriko neck, I know some people, like at New York Comic Con, when asked who he would adapt, he would talk about, he said he'd like to see Hedera. I don't really see Hedera being what the -1 sequel includes.
Yeah.
And then I know he's been coy about using King Ghidorah.
Yeah, Yamazaki, please keep... I love you, Yamazaki. Keep your Ghidorah design away, please.
Yeah. I honestly, and this is the thing, I would like to see another solo Godzilla movie.
See, I'm down for either, honestly. I have enough faith in Yamazaki where it's like, if he wants to do that, go right ahead, King. Go right ahead.
Right. I think he could. I think it, you know, some people are saying Anguirus, Hedera, King Ghidorah, new monster, right?
If you're going to bring a new monster, I think Anguirus is, or like an old monster, then Anguirus is the one I'm voting for. I think that's the one that, design-wise, suits his style the most, frankly. But yeah. I mean, a new monster could be cool. I don't know.
I think he could do a new monster. He's directed monster stuff before. I could see him doing something. We could
use new Reiwa monsters that aren't just Gamera with a new name.
Yeah. Or the forgettable Servum from the anime trilogy.
Oh, that's right. I did forget about those.
It's okay. They're boring. They're literally just boring. But no, I could see it either way. I hope I feel like he can accomplish a solo Godzilla film. I feel like he could do a versus film. I feel like if
we know he can accomplish a solo Godzilla film, I think we already know.
Yeah. I just feel like I really would love to see a second solo Godzilla film and see where he can take the drama aspect. That's what's enticing me the most. I want to see Noda come back. I want to see Shikishima. I want to see the kid. I want to see Captain. I want to see Noriko. I want to see Akiko. I want to see that story continue.
Yeah, like generally the only cast member I wouldn't want to see again is like Tachibana, because that character's story I think is just done.
Yes, I agree. Oh, and we can't forget Sakura Ando's character.
We
cannot.
Bro, I love Sakura Ando. Give her more to do this time. Come on.
Cut out Tachibana. That's fine, right? You know, that reduces the cast a little bit more.
Tachibana's story's done.
Yes.
He served his story. And
I think Yamazaki knows that too.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I don't think we need to tell Yamazaki how to tell a new Godzilla story.
Everybody else, let's do it. Let's see what this family narrative goes to, right? I think that's really interesting. You know, maybe have the next film. It would be really cool to see, like, maybe March 1st. Like, do it in 54. And that... it'd be a little risky to, like, remake 54, right? But what if they kind of derived it from 54?
I don't know. I mean, I'd just be like, I'm fine with the solo Godzilla movie. I don't know. -1 itself is kind of like, it's like a low key 54 remake, like all solo Godzilla movies kind of are.
Right, but what I'm saying, like, maybe have it like revolve around the Marshall Islands March 1st Castle Bravo testing.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Because you could argue that, like, the death of the Japanese fisherman there, you know, that created tensions between the U.S. and Japan, leads to Godzilla coming back. The U.S. refuses to help Japan because of the tensions, and they have to fight solo or something. I don't really know. Like, that's just kind of an idea that I came up with and throwing out there. Now, that being said, I don't really have much more to add to the -2 conversation right now.
It feels like we've brought it up so many times that we just... Now that it's finally here, what do we even say?
Right, exactly. I think you and I have talked about -1 so much that, like, there's nothing really else to cover on it. It's over.
Right. It's not like Yamazaki really said too much about it on his on the Godzilla Day stream. He's just like, I'm here to tell you guys that I can't say anything.
Yeah, that tracks. That tracks. But with that being said, I mean, that's Godzilla Day. You know, this is shorter than last year, but I mean, there wasn't a whole lot. What we did get's pretty cool. And, you know, we'll see what next year brings.
I wonder how big next year's stream will be.
I feel like they might get to a point where it's kind of really laid back and lax and mostly just
I think so.
Toys and figures. If the gemstone... If the gemstone stuff is done and now the tokusatsu short films are done, I mean, maybe you do, maybe just like have Godzilla, like you said, yeah, Godzilla or Chibi Godzilla episodes, like Godzilla Day specials. I feel like that would work best.
Who knows? I guess we'll just find out next year when there are announcements or maybe even a lack thereof, perhaps.
Yeah. But with that being said, I mean, Rex, if you're done, we can go. I got one last thing I can say, but we can sign off.
Alrighty. What's that last thing you've got?
Well, I got to say hello. I'm Elijah, and I have a Kaiju and Tokusatsu problem. Joking aside, I am Elijah Thomas. I'm a writer. I've written for GodzillaMovies.com, Kaiju Ramen Magazine, and Kaiju United, of which I'm the Chief Innovative Officer for. My writing has also been featured in the book Giant Bug Cinema, a Monster Kid's Guide from Bear Manor Media, where I wrote about Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I've also been given the privilege to work with my good friends at Giant Monster BS on developing and being the creative consultant on their most recent season, Season 2, covering independent kaiju films. Outside of writing and podcasting, I also served as a consultant on the upcoming Titanic Creations officially licensed Yonguri articulated figure. Go to titanicreations.com/Yonguri to order yours today. I've also had the privilege to work with SRS Cinema on bonus features. I've worked on Yuzo, The Biggest Battle in Tokyo, Liverleaf, War of the Ninja Monsters, Jiron vs. Gora, Sharkdemic, and I also am attached to Hoshi 35. You can order these Blu-rays on srscinema.com And I might add that Yuzo, Liverleaf, and Ninja Monsters all are available for pre-order on DVD or purchase on any major online retailer. I'm also a filmmaker and YouTuber. You can check out my stuff on my YouTube channel, ET13 Productions, where you can see some of my short films and old YouTube videos, along with a playlist that features all of my appearances on YouTube. I do plan on getting new videos out soon, so definitely check that out. I recently did release one of my other student short films, Bio Project. So now on my YouTube channel, you can see SOS Seek Shelter, my first project that had a budget, The Invisible Teacher, one of my earliest student short films, and Bio Project, my horror short film. I do have a couple more that are coming, so definitely check that out. You can also check out my action figure photography on my Instagram at ET13_productions and my X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Thanks, Danny. At the same handle. Now, Rex, where can people find you at?
Well, dear listeners, you can find me on YouTube at RexXeno, on Twitter at Rex_Xenomorph, and on Instagram, Rex_Xeno. And if you want to check out some of my writing, go take a look at the Tokusatsu Network.
And as for the podcast, don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That boosts our ratings and helps us get recommended to more people just like you. If you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, that's actually a lie. I'm reading off of a MacBook right now. You can rate us on Spotify. If you want to stay up to date with all things Kaiju Conversation related, follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. If you don't have Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram or like us on Facebook. If you're like me before podcasting and you don't have any social media, lucky you. You can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, you know the drill. And as always, we'll read your reviews on air for everyone to hear. We also have a Teespring store. Eventually we'll have original artwork on there, but until then you can sport our awesome logo on a t-shirt or maybe even a coffee mug. If you'd like to chat with us, check out our Discord server full of others that have similar interests to you. It's a great community full of great people. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload a video. We sometimes post exclusives to the channel like bloopers for episodes or minisodes talking about news or other subjects. We also have an interview with Godzilla designer Jared Krzyzewski on the channel. I definitely butchered his name. I'm so sorry about that. And a huge thanks to Rex for editing all of these episodes and all the other content we upload. His links can be found in the description below. Along with Rex, we'd like to give a huge thanks and shout out to Danny DiManna of the Godzilla Novelization Project for his amazing vocals on our theme song. You can support him by following him on Twitter at Danzilla93_GNP or visit his website, GodzillaNovelizationProject.com. And a huge thanks to Grattan Conwell from the podcast Giant Monster BS for composing the music for our theme song. You can support him by following the podcast on Twitter at Giant Monster BS or on any podcast platform under the name Giant Monster BS. And with that, we're going to wrap things up here. Another Godzilla Day in the can. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to us break down and recap Godzilla Day 2024. So all I have left to say is thank you, and as always, please remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We are set, we are in debt, there's nothing to sweat. Life's too short now, baby. And not to think now, baby. Conversation. His name's Elijah, baby. And also Rex now, baby. We love those kaiju, baby. And you will too now.